Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's up, beautiful people? It's April 12th. Happy Sunday. Oh, shoot. I got something to share. All right. Guess who I saw today in the Cheesecake Factory parking? Well, not even the parking lot, sitting on a bench at Cheesecake Factory. I guess I don't know if he was waiting to go in for his table or waiting to leave. I don't know, but Dr. Umar Johnson, or as my son put it, Dr. Umar in the wild. It was so weird seeing him in his full embodiment, and you're not gonna guess what he said. So first of all, I'm walking up, my son and we're headed into the restaurant. I see him, I spotted him sitting on the bench even before we got close, but I didn't even look his way. I just straightforward went straight for the door. But I hear some ladies coming from behind me. I don't know if they passed them and realized who they passed and they were doubling back. I'm not really sure, but I surmised that they were kind of calling him over to chit chat, maybe take a picture or whatever. So he jumps up and heads toward them, and you know what he says? Black Queens forever. I said, oh my God, like he literally leads with this tagline. I'm cracking up. It was so fun. So if I didn't know that that was him before, I absolutely knew by the tagline. So that was super funny. I don't know. I just needed to tell somebody that might understand, because surprisingly my son knew who he was, but I guess that's just how viral his social media, like his YouTube presence is. He don't really know, but he knows, especially some of the memes of Dr. Umar. But generally speaking, like that was just the last person I was expecting to cross paths with today. So I just wanted to tell somebody that could really get into it the way that I was tickled by it. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for humoring me, literally. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday, a great weekend. Yeah, I was gonna jump on today anyway, but when I had that little encounter, it just gave me even more of an incentive to do so. All right, so let's see what we got. Oh, wow. World card. Wow, that popped all the way out. I don't know if you saw it on camera. World card. Something is coming to an end, or it has ended abruptly from that flip out. That's what like almost like I'm getting the energy of like a whiplash, like something coming to a screeching halt or an abrupt stop. I love that. Okay. Well, depending on what it is, but usually with the world card, it's necessary. It's in alignment, whether you like it or not. But let's see what else. It's absolute. It's definitive. Yes, with the Queen of Wands. Now that popped out a bit in the struggle, but another great flipper. What's the struggle about? Maybe just not being, because the Queen of Wands is definitely a symbol of confidence. So maybe just not really being sure of how final, how absolute something actually is. Like almost, I'm getting like it's kind of hard to believe, or hard to conceive that something has finally been brought to closure, or a finality after so much time has passed. It might be something where you feel like you can, like, really? Is it true? Like, pinch me, am I dreaming type of energy, or just kind of cautious about feeling too sure or secure about an ending, and also about a new beginning as well, like on teetering that line with caution, almost like Are we sure the coast is clear? Everything's good? That we're all safe here? You know, it's safe to cross over or safe to move on? You sure everything is complete or close? You know, that's what I'm getting. Like, just really moving with caution, not fear, you know, because it's the Queen of Wands, but I get that sideway flip out is really just being extra cautious and mindful, and maybe considerate more than cautious, but just really considering all aspects and kind of being a bit on guard a little bit. Yeah, like still having your guards up to some degree, because it's like you feel like you're safe to kind of breathe, exhale, relax, you know, relax your shoulders, be at ease or whatever. But at the same time, like I said, it's so much time has passed in a way that you haven't been able to be that secure, that it's hard to know how to really fully embrace the moment, so to speak. You know, to embrace the moment of ease holistically and let it fully like wash over you or consume you. Whoa, that was, what was that? 2 of Wands? Yeah, but it's like it's 2 of Wands is given like you've spent so much time planning or activating yourself toward an ending, or circumstances toward an ending, like putting all the pieces in alignment, or all the ducks in a row. You know, that almost becomes, that becomes the conditioning or the normal, you know, always working toward a thing, or waiting for a thing, or believing for a thing. But for it to actually be a reality, you know, that's a different story. And that's something that at this magnitude with the world card, whatever we're talking about here, it just may be hard to fathom fully. Like, it's hard to accept, like, there's nothing more I need to do on this. There's nothing else required of me. There's no more red tape. There's no hidden term. There are no hidden terms. There's no addendum, you know, amendment. You forgot this, but wait a minute. But wait, there's more. There's none of that. Like, we just move on from here. Is that what you're telling me? Yeah. Let's see, what are we talking about? Yeah, here it is. Having to be in defense mode. At least not about what was a threat in the past. You know, it's like the old threats are not admissible in this season. Now, what of the future, you know, is yet to unfold, is a whole nother situation, a whole nother story. However, is also given that the experiences of the past are what has strengthened someone's defenses, without that, in a way that doesn't even require you to be so proactive about it, you know, to be so, how can I say it, like, strengthen someone's securities and boundaries without having to be so defensive. That's what I actually mean to say, where you're like paranoid almost, you know, or just always, like I said, keeping your guard up, or your weapon raised, or waiting for, staying on alert, waiting for the next thing to come your way, always on ready, you know. And not that there's anything terribly wrong with that, but it has a different frequency than just being at ease. And it doesn't mean that you're any less protected when you're at ease, but it's just, to me, it's giving something about having to learn now to live more in that easefulness, even as you stay alert, you know, and not having to be so defensive, so on guard, so ready for war at any given turn, you know. Yeah. could even be, I mean, the Wands is definitely more action oriented. So again, it could really be being uh, being thoughtful about personal attacks, mentally, physically, any range of that, but particularly physically, things that could disrupt your auric field, your environment, or your material world in an actual way. Yeah, whatever that's it. Whatever was able to have any type of free reign to disturb your peace before, and according to this, there may have been many things. Something about the way that you have governed yourself through the worst of times and the best of times is what now has almost supercharged your shield of protection or your field of protection, so that this is what surrounds you, whether or not you it's like automatically activated, and the only thing that is required of you really is to just stay actively alert, but not necessarily to feel like you gotta anticipate maneuvers and moves ahead of time, and like almost, if one thing is being defensive, and having to have a reactive response, but in some cases, maybe, feeling the particular pressure to have take a proactive approach to what could come, like what could come at you, like having to really consider all angles, literally here with the Seven of Wands, like something about that is closed. And that's why the Queen of Wands was in the struggle, because it, like I said, that is hard to believe. As a Queen of Wands, she, this energy could have been the reason why they're at a Queen of Wands status in the first place is because of how many times they've been tried, maybe even successfully attacked, knocked down, dragged out, taken some hits, some blows, had to recover, had to be patched up, stitched up, pick themselves up and dust themselves off. Like, there could have been a number of infractions that a Queen of Wands energy could have incurred just trying to stay alive, just trying to cultivate their their own personal security and confidence and just being themselves. Like, a Queen of Wands can definitely be an attractive force for competition. I would say Scorpio energy is more so attractive to jealousy at times, but competition for sure with fire signs, generally speaking, just because of like the magneticism that is innate, and the charisma and the presence and the boldness and the confidence. Even when it's not fully developed, there usually is just a certain flair of passion that reads as confidence to those, observing or encountering from the outside in. And sometimes it compels competition in ways that can be healthy, but sometimes it can actually be dangerous, and in many ways, the Queen of Wands will be none the wiser about this competition, or the just the energy, the range of energy that is being attracted, because they're not really thinking about that. They're just being their natural selves. And usually the highest competition for fire sign energies, generally masculine or feminine, is themselves. They're so busy focusing on how they can outdo them that it's usually lost on them that there's anybody else trying to keep up or trying to outdo, until sometimes it's too late, and then you, like I said, you get bruised or banged up, you get mistreated, you get used up, you get discarded, or betrayed, and you wouldn't even realize what's going on until it's already said and done. And then that starts to build like that calloused shell, in some ways, before wisdom teaches you to break that down, and again, to discern who gets to be let in this space and who doesn't. It can get kind of hard, and kind of, I don't know, like it can, I don't even know the right word to describe it, but either way, it's like, you're telling me I don't have to live like that anymore? I could be a little bit more soft, a little bit more open, a little bit more social again, because Lord knows the Queen of Wands, kryptonite would be to have to seclude self from others, fire signs that love to socialize and love to interact and, exercise their passion with people and in places and new discoveries and so on and so forth, to kind of have to go and to to really kind of be secluded from the things that drive that passion is uncomfortable and unsavory in many ways. But also you learn to adapt, and you learn to find a new normal and a new balance. So again, this could even be being used to being like recluse. I think that's the right word, from socializing as openly as before, and now coming into a place where you can kind of be your old fiery self again, whether you're a fire sign or not. I'm speaking of the energy, so I'm sure if you relate, you don't have to be a fire sign or have that prominently in your chart, but to just have like a renewed lust for life and a passion for creativity again, that doesn't seem to be inhibited by fear or reluctance to express yourself, or insecurity, or all those second thoughts and second guesses that you might not innately have as a fire sign energy, but you've been conditioned to do so because of experience. Now it's like coming back into yourself where you can feel comfortable just living life out loud again, and not worrying about who's watching, who's trying to compete, who's trying to compare or keep up or put you down or set you back or sabotage you or challenge you, you know what I mean? Whether known or unknown, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a liberation here, I feel. Again, that because of the conditioning of experience, is hard to believe. Where you might have easily been the life of the party, you stopped going to the parties. Where you would have been the good time gal or guy, you find more, you've learned to find more pleasure in seclusion and being in your own world, or being by yourself, where you may have had many friends or associates or acquaintances and things like that at a time in your life. You may have found yourself, kind of being a lone wolf for a few seasons or a season or two in your life. And although that became a learned conditioning, it might not necessarily be innate. So now, given all the experiences that was had, all the experience gained and learned from unsavory moments, but teachable moments in your life, and like I said, also a closing cycle to those energies that may have been able to pierce vulnerabilities before, whether you made agreement with it or where you were just none the wiser. Either way, It's no longer the peak season or peak era for that. You know, those energies have ultimately kind of binded themselves by the choices that they've made to operate in that function. So it's given way, you know, kind of cleared the board for something more authentic and more organic. But you might not know, you know, like they're in this at this point, being at almost like the threshold of a new era, there's no evidence acquired or accumulated just yet to prove that to you. You know, it's just like just the season opener, so to speak, of this newfound sovereignty, you know, in a new form with all that you already know in tow, you know. So you may not necessarily be assured of your security just yet, which is not a bad place to be. But I'm here to tell you that whatever there may have been a fear about, or an insecurity, or a threat before, you know, a worthy threat, you know, not worthy, but you know, a reasonable threat, is not the case anymore. It's just not, it doesn't hold the same value or the same effect in this season. And you can wait for the evidence of that to be as sure as you like, or just use discernment along the way, but that's what this is given to me. That's the 9 of Wands. That's the bruising that I was talking about. Because here you are looking back like, you sure? But this is also what I'm picking up as well. This is the state of those that energies, whether they be people or frequencies embodied in people, or elements, whatever the case may be. This is the energy of those that pitted themselves against your personal security. They may still be standing, they may be, you know, alive and well to some degree. However, they worn out. And that could be the reason why the cycle is closed on what can actually be effective from energies outside, or energies that may have posed a threat in the past. Because at this time, it just there's not enough vitality there, or strength, to champion the resistance. All the strength that remains pretty much needs to be channeled to survival and recovery at this point. Yeah. So again, whatever opposition was up against you that was significant in some way or another, this is why it's the season, you know. Well, I can't say that for sure, but one of the aspects of this season or cycle being closed again is the fact that what used to be a threat just doesn't have the power to be threatening anymore. Or they don't have the opportunity, the resources, the leverage. I feel that heavy. They don't have the leverage. They don't have the energy. Maybe even the time. The passion is lost. Yeah, like something about the passion is being lost that was driving the agenda or the ambition. Is just not there anymore. There's like a mental exhaustion, or maybe even a physical exhaustion. Like I said, all the energy that would have been used to focus on one particular place outside of the oppositional force itself needs to be retained, is what I'm trying to say. Whether it be for what they, Ten of Pentacles, whether it be for what they've already, you know, the injuries that have occurred on account of this ambition, you know, self-inflicted or otherwise, or, you know, karmic, or to stabilize themselves for the future, you know, for what's yet to come. Like almost to, you know, to lock in, because a lot of energies made you or whomever relates their targeted enemy. But like I was saying about the Queen of Wands and fire sign energies, like you never agreed to this arrangement, you know, like you never threw your hat in the ring for this fight or this banter or this back and forth or this tug of war. Like you were, in some cases, you weren't even, like I said, aware until it was damn near too late. And you were, you know, kind of almost taken down for the count in many ways, and having to really like hold yourself up. Like I said, pick yourself up and dust yourself off from a battle or from some type of struggle that you weren't even aware you were in, you know. So there's that. But anyway, Ten of Pentacles, what's on the other side of this? Oh, the Three of Swords. Now we going all over the place now. It's up, it's down, it's high, it's low, it's left, it's right. What's going on here? What's the Three of Swords? Let me see what's on the end and that'll tell me. I just heard something. Let me see. Oh, that exactly. This is a hard pill to swallow. The truth of the matter of this new season, new cycle, and everything that comes along with it puts oppositional forces at grave odds with themselves. Once again, realizing whether they do or not, you know, consciously, but the reality, the truth that that hurts here is that there was never any competition or comparison at all, you know, not the one that was imposed and not one that was natural. And so coming to that realization here and then seeing the physical evidence, here's the Ten of Pentacles of that truth, is what's going to be like almost like a final blow, which is why I'm saying like these energies don't really have the vitality to keep up with you in any particular shape and form, or keep up or keep at it with what's been going on with, you know, the business as usual, resistance as usual, because they have too much to contend with on what's been self-imposed. And also the blow is seeing an energy such as the Queen of Wands really in their glory in a way that is, what did I say? Hard to believe. But the difference here is that although it might be hard for the opposition to believe, you won't help but perceive it, because the Ten of Pentacles is a very absolute card, where it's not just an ideal, it's not a notion or a fantasy or a sentiment. Ten of Pentacles, I don't know if I said Ten of Pentacles or if I said Ten of Wands, but Ten of Pentacles is actual, it's material, it's something that can't be missed in the physical form. Like you won't, it's evidential, you know, you won't, it's irrefutable. I just keep, more words keep coming to me. It's like that, that's the type of wands here that someone's being like inundated with, you know, which is what's making it hard for them to pull themselves together to even try to counterattack or to what's the right word, to like regroup in any particular way for the old in the old ambitions, because what they're seeing materialize perhaps right in front of their very eyes, unbeknownst to you perhaps, because once again, you're minding your own business. But what they're seeing materialize as something prosperous and profitable, something that is tangibly triumphant here, regardless of what their relentless attempts may have been to have it turn out otherwise. That's the heartbreak. That's the heartbreak to observe, and to not even just the observance, but to have to actually accept, you know, maybe even accept defeat in the ways that they were looking to gain a win. Or certainly if they felt like your win is a loss to them, well, you know, it pretty much is a done deal, because the Fool card is here, which signifies that everybody's getting a fresh start post this World card. Matter of fact, the World is the last card and the Fool is the first. Perfect. And I am going to end it there. Yeah, it's like an inevitable, undeniable, irrefutable new beginning overall, but how that new beginning is unfolding is completely different vibrations here. That's why I said it's up, it's down, it's left and right, because while there's something going on, a reality that is quite true and actual for some, it's the complete opposite for others. And that's the hard pill to swallow. That's the ugly truth that is really hard to accept for those that find themselves on the other side of a favorable outcome. Or like they may feel like they got the raw end of a deal or something like that. I don't know, but it's all fair and it's all karmic here is what is given. So I ain't even gonna hold it long. I'm gonna leave it right there. Hierophant and the Chariot. Wow. Sheesh. That's some high level positions we talking about here. The Hierophant and the Chariot. The triumph part is in the Chariot. Okay. The Hierophant is given like appointment, exaltation, like a clear determination here is what I'm getting. And that is going to be without refute, you know, like those that are winning in life at this point, like it won't be hard to tell who that is, maybe even on sight, you know, or just it could be frequency projective, but I'm just getting like a strong disparity between fate and fortune here, where it's going to be so obvious and so evident, you know, who's living the life that, you know, they are fated. Well, I guess for across the board, what life you are living is going to be a projection of what you've been fated for by way of the actions and choices that you've made up until this point. So throughout that cycle, that era that we're stepping out of, the evidence of what you cultivated, again, what you activated, what you initiated, the identity that was curated through perhaps trial and tribulation or whatever, that processing was of a previous season, is now in full bloom in this era. Literally, the Ten of Pentacles, the Fool, the Hierophant here is really a nod to appointment and position of power and prestige and um, uh, uh, influence and things of that nature, like really just kind of being a bit of a standout in society in some ways, whether that's your desire or not, but just something about your life is going to really speak for who you are, and the work that you've done to achieve certain positions of power and authority and access, and that could be as simple as like a promotion at the job or a position of authority or creativity in some way, shape, or form, like maybe even as a religious leader or a spiritual leader with the Hierophant here, or some type of teacher or influential character in whatever your craft is. It doesn't have to be religious or spiritual, but whatever that is something that has elevated you to some point of authority. Oh, my flashlight went off. The flash on the phone went off. Authority or affluence. Yeah. And then the Chariot is just kind of having like this relentless success, in that field, in that regard. And that's noting what has made you, giving you the triumph to be ascended to certain levels of position or power or whatever have you, but also to me it's projective of what is yet to come, providing you just continue to stay on the track that you've already carved out for yourself, that you've already committed to. And a lot of that is allowing yourself to adapt as a fire sign will, and readjust your perspective, your approach, your intentions, your initiative when it calls for it, because you may not necessarily need to be as aggressive as you have, or even defensive as you've had to be in past seasons, to gain the level of success that you've achieved in this moment, that you will need to be in the next season or forwardly to secure that same frequency. Like it may not call for all that, and if you're not able to adapt and readjust your approach when you're being guided to do so, like say you're still staying in that defensive mode and nobody can get in, and no collaborations, no companions, no new friends, and so on and so forth, you might miss opportunities for even bigger wins, because you're still operating in the mentality or in the psychology of a season that actually did call for that. So I just heard they don't pay you the big bucks for nothing, or pay me the big bucks. I think that usually people say that, like, they don't pay me the big bucks for nothing. In this case, like, you've been promoted or are being promoted or given more responsibility, authority, sovereignty in the season, because you showed and proved that you can manage it. So now, just as any good leader, say of a company, or in whatever regard of leadership we're talking about, we're definitely talking about leaders in an industry or whatever, how to pivot in a way that suits you best, or suits the greatest good overall. And in this case, it feels like gradually allowing yourself to readjust to this season of being more at ease than more on guard, and really balancing your act between the two. And it may be hard to believe because some may have, given up on that desire a long time ago and have settled in that I guess this is my new normal. you know, but the new normal is that integration of the you of the past, that you may have put to rest or tucked away for safekeeping, but the evolution of that self that now knows better, what to do and what not to do to not recreate the pitfalls of that past, but also knows how again to pivot and to shift in a way that will incorporate, the totality uh, of the triumphs that are in alignment for that evolved state of being, if that makes sense. I don't think I said it very well, but I think whomever is supposed to get it gets it, I do. Because what you needed to do in the past might have preserved you so that and that was the win itself. But now there's different moves to be made. And perhaps it can't just get done by you being, doing it all on your own or being secluded or resistant to, connection in the healthiest form. So if you allow yourself to surrender to that conditioned mentality, of resistance and fear and skepticism and maybe even paranoia in some way, shape, or form, you just might miss out, and nobody wants that. There's been too much work and dedication and commitment and achievement already done, and grooming and character building, that at this point, when now, as they say, to the victor goes the spoils, you wouldn't want to leave no crumbs on that plate. Oh, and I just heard, thou preparest the table before me. And that's the heartbreaking part here. Like I was saying, that's the perfect scripture to describe that energy, the response of like it being a hard pill to swallow and something that you hate to see as far as your opposition or so-called enemies are concerned, that you are set up at a divine feast as far as they're concerned, and they're not invited. They don't have a seat at your table. They got to go find their own table somewhere else. All right, well, I'm going to leave it there. Happy Sunday. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.